Hey everyone, are you ready to continue on with our red, white, and bloom quilt? Let's do it. Hey everyone, Cristin here, and we are continuing with our red, white, and bloom quilt, but we're really getting close to being done with all of the blocks. So let's talk about what we have so far. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 sections done, and section 5 done. Oh my gosh, we're doing great. So today we are going to start section 6, and hey, let's go ahead and finish section 6 today too. It's gonna be easy, I promise. So let's go over what we need for today. So we are going to do the Jar of Flowers block. It's on page 24 of our book, and somebody mentioned that they bought the book that they bought the CD and didn't know where to find the instructions. So I want to point out the quilts, Kimberbell quilts, always have the CD inside of the book. So if you got a CD and you didn't get the book, make sure to go back to the seller because it comes inside of the book. All right, the directions do not come on the CD when it's a quilt because it comes with the book. So that's one little tip. But if you're following along on all of my videos, I do go over everything in the book, so you really don't need the book so much, but it does come with your purchase. So, all right, let's talk about the Jar of Flowers. Like I said, it's on page 24 of our book, so grab your packet. There's actually not much to it. There's a lot of stitching on this one, but not a lot of products for the block. So we are going to start with our main fabric, and this is a directional fabric. I mentioned on the prep video that to get the correct, whether horizontal or vertical, this you can see it's horizontal with the length of the block. So I mentioned that in the prep video. But again, your quilt your way. If you want your jar of flowers going this way, you would just cut it that way, right? Because we've got the length going this way. All right, so for our background, our main fabric, we are going to start with this at 8.5 by 10.5, 8.5 by 10.5 for our main fabric, and it is the light blue, almost a aqua blue striped fabric, and it is a directional fabric. 8.5 by 10.5 for that main fabric. And then we have our candy clear vinyl, and I don't have mine. Oh, hold on. That's so funny. So look, it's in there. You can't see it because it's clear vinyl, so don't lose it. But it is in my packet. I didn't notice it when I pulled it out. All right, so we're going to have our clear vinyl. Don't lose it. And this is going to be 3.5 by 5. 3.5 by 5 for the clear vinyl. And then we have our red dot crochet edge, what is it called? A bow trim, red crocheted edge trim bow. All right, it's not a bow yet right now, it's just this, but we're going to have this to be 10 inches, and it says we need 2. That's interesting. I only have 1. I'm going to have to check that. It does say we need 2. I only have 1. I'm not sure why. I'll look through my packets and see if maybe it got misplaced. I think I have some of this Kimberbell crocheted trim, so we'll see. But anyway, 2 pieces that are 10 inches, all right? And then we are going to quilt this, and so for that we need our batting. So for our batting, it is going to be 7 by 9 for our batting today. 7 by 9. I'm using the Kimberbell project batting, and it works great for these blocks. So 7 by 9 for your batting. We are going to quilt this with plaid 1 in a 6 by 8 quilting design. Plaid 1 in 6 by 8. Now, if you are using a 5 by 7 hoop, you could quilt this using a 4 by 6 twice. That would equal out to your 6 by 8. 4 by 6 twice would equal out, so the double hooping. All right. And let's see, we are going to do that ribbon in the hoop. We'll go over that, and there's a lot of stitching to it, but that's it. And then we will add the pretty bows and things after the fact. So that's our simple block today, but we are also, since we're going to try and finish section 6 as well, we're going to work on our filler blocks. So let's talk about our filler blocks. Hold on a second. All right, so while I went to go look up the quilting designs, I found my embellishment pack, and in that embellishment pack has my extra ribbon. So if you aren't finding it in your packet, you may have thought you only needed one, but you need both. So make sure and grab that out of your embellishment packet if that's where you put yours. All right, so for our quilting today, so we are going to do the border blocks. So let's go over the border blocks actually. Let me show you which ones they are and tell you about the quilting for each one. There are 4, I believe, for our section 6 filler blocks. That's what we're going to work on. So for the section 6 filler blocks, the first one is this 2x2. It's the navy blue with the little flower petals on it, and the fabric itself, the quilting design is going to be a 2x2. So that means in the book it'll tell you to cut it to 2.5 by 2.5. My recommendation, like I mentioned in the prepping video, I recommend 3x3. If you can do it a 1/2 inch larger or anything larger, it will do the tack down, and it just makes it easier to hold it in place, and then you cut on that line when we're all done. And even if you don't cut it to the larger size, you still want your batting to be 3x3. All right, so 3x3 for both is my recommendation for the fabric and the batting. This is for filler block. It's actually filler block number 39. All right, and we're going to use a 2x2 quilting design in geometric 1. Geometric 1 for our quilting design for this one. All right, and then the next one, this is actually filler block number 42, and this one is going to be, it's a 2x4 quilting design, so that means that it is a 3x5 is my recommendation for the size of the fabric if you have it large enough. The book will say 2.5 by 4.5, and that will work fine. Don't worry if you've already cut before you saw the prep video, that's totally fine. It will still work, but my recommendation to make it a little bit easier is 3x5. All right, 3x5 for your fabric and for your batting. All right, I recommend it for both, and even if your fabric is cut to the size listed in the book, you still want your batting to be 3x5 so that it will tack it down. All right, so 3x5 or 2.5 by 4.5 for your fabric. And this one, we're going to quilt with 4x2, so it's really 2x4 stars 1. 2x4 stars 1 for the quilting design. This is for number 42 of our filler blocks. All right, and then our next one is this red one, and this is red with cherries on it, and my recommendation is 3x5 on this, just like the other one. So it'll say 2.5 by 4.5 in the book, and we're going to use quilting design. Let's see, chain link 1 for our quilting design in a 2x4 design. 2x4 quilting design, chain link 1. And again, 3x5 for your fabric and your batting if you have enough extra. In the book it'll say 2.5 by 4.5, and that will work fine if that's what you have, not a problem. All right, that is for filler block number 40 filler block. And then our last one for today, this is that really cute blue plaid with all of the picnic type items on it. And this one we are going to have, in the book it'll say 4.5 by 6.5, and I didn't have extra. So you can see, because my batting, see how my batting is larger than my fabric? Your batting you want to have at 5 by 7. 5 by 7 for your batting. And if you have enough of this fabric to cut it at 5 by 7, it will make it easier. But I didn't have enough extra in my pack, and so mine is cut to the size that is listed, which is 4.5 by 6.5. All right, but for your batting, 5 by 7. And then we're going to quilt this one. This is number 41, and we're going to use orange peel 1 for our quilting design in a 4 by 6. 4 by 6 orange peel 1. This is number 41 quilting design. And then that's it. Those are the 4 border blocks that we need for section 6 and that flower pot And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you over to the computer and see what we can fit into a hoop. And again, it depends on your hooping size, and it would be really simple to just do that large flower pot separately, flower jar I think it was called. You could do that and then do the filler blocks in another hooping. That would work perfectly fine. But if you have a large enough hoop, then you can save on some time and save a few steps and stabilizer and all that. So let's go over to the computer and see what we can fit in. So one other thing is, to complete section 6, we're going to need one other block. So remember, grab from your packet of extra blocks that you've done, and you're going to grab your watermelon. And I want to point something out. I just noticed this just now. So the watermelon block that you want to use is actually the one with the dark navy, and I already used it. I put the wrong one in section 4, and I didn't even notice until just now. But I put it in my quilt already. It was supposed to be the lighter blue, brighter blue watermelon block. This is the one that we're supposed to have for section 6. So if you haven't already put yours together, you can do it correctly. I'm sorry about that mistake. It was supposed to be this one for the section 4 watermelon block, and this one is supposed to be for section 6. I didn't even notice until just now when I was looking for this watermelon block. So either way, you're going to want your watermelon block for section 6 when we do the flower jar and the filler blocks, and that's the only other one that we need is a watermelon block, and we'll be able to complete section 6. Hey everyone, so I'm at my computer and I'm going to open up Embellishment Essentials for those that choose to combine their designs into less hoopings. Totally optional, of course. Some people choose to do this on their machine or do multiple hoopings, whatever works for you. But for those that want some help in determining what will fit where and how to do it on embroidery software, I'm going to show you that now. So I am, you can see down here at the bottom, I'm on my 10 by 16 hoop, which is actually what I'm going to want to use. I tried it in a 9 by 14 hoop and it was too small. So what you could do if you don't have that largest 10 by 16 hoop, you could very easily do the flower jar block and then do the filler blocks in one hooping separately, whatever works for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. If you're not on the hoop size that you want, you would open up this preferences folder and choose the hoop size that you want, say okay, and then go to this compass button and hit H, and then we're all ready to go. So I'm going to start with the flower jar quilting. So I'm going to bring in the quilting first. We almost always start with the quilting. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file, and I am going to close up Oh So Delightful that I was just working on and go to Red, White, and Bloom. I have it on my desktop, and I'm going to go to the quilting files, and Plaid 1 is what we are going to use for the flower jar. So Plaid 1, embroidery files, Pez is what I use for my machine, and we're looking for a 6 by 8. So I'm going to scroll down right there, 6 by 8 Plaid 1. Double click on that, it will go to the center. I'm going to go ahead and just bring it up to this left hand corner. All right, so that we can try and fit lots of things in here. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in the largest quilting design. Let's see here. If I think about this, maybe I'll keep them in order and move them around after. I'll do that. All right, so the first one is that little 2 by 2 quilting design. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file, and we're going to open up, I'm going to close up this Plaid 1 and open up Geometric 1 right there. And embroidery files, Pez, Geometric 1 in a 2 by 2. Oh, that's so cute. Geometric 1 in a 2 by 2. Double click on that, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click on it and bring it up here for now. We'll determine what fits where in a bit. All right, so we are going to need to change all of these quilting designs. It might actually be easier to do them as we go since they are all different quilting designs. So I'm going to do that. Whoa. I zoomed in with my mouse button. That was interesting. All right, so I'm going to go back to this first one. So this first design, you can see it up here, and I'm going to just quickly change these colors. So I'm going to start with this 1-1 here and click on the color, and I'm going to choose dark aqua. It's the first color that comes up for me. It doesn't matter what color you choose, but you just want them all to be the same of this one. All right, so 1, 1, and now we're on 1, 2. Click on the color, and I'm going to choose the first color that comes up for me is Blaze and say okay. And then 1, 3, click on the color. We already used dark aqua, so now I'm going to use the next color down, which is Marine. And then 1, 4, click on the color, and we've already used Blaze, so I'm going to use the next color down for me, which is Oriole. And then I'm going to go ahead and change these colors so that I can determine what thread color I want to use. It'll create a stop. So I'm going to go ahead and change all of these. So this 1, 5, click on the color. The first one that comes up for me is Sprout. All right, and then we're on number 2, so 2, 1, and we want to use the same colors we used before except for that 5th one so that those don't join. All right, so 2, 1, click on the color. We want dark aqua. And then 2, 2, click on the color, we want Blaze. And 2, 3, click on the color, and we want Marine. If you don't remember your colors, they're right up here. Whatever color you used for these same series of numbers, all right? 2, 4, click on the color and Oriole. And then 2, 5, click on the color. And we already used Sprout, so I'm going to go down to Sea Green. All right, and then I'm going to click outside so that nothing is selected. You can close these up, or you can keep them open to be able to remember the thread colors if you choose. All right, merge stitch file to bring in the next one. And let's see, we did the 2. So we want the 4x2. It's going to be a 2x4 stars 1. So I'm going to close up geometric and open up stars 1. And embroidery files, block by block is the technique we're using. Pez is what I use for my machine. And we're looking for a 2x4. I didn't write if it's vertical or horizontal. Let's see here. 2x4. Did I already miss it? It'll be, where's 2x4? Okay, so 2x4, this is kind of interesting. They're in numerical order, so I would have thought it would be that before the 2x6, and it's not. If you scroll down to the very bottom of this folder, and I just downloaded this, it's at the bottom. And the reason is because see how there's KDQ 018 and KDQ 18. It doesn't have that 0. That's why they're out of order. And you could certainly add that in, and then it'll be back in order so you remember next time. The other interesting thing is it doesn't say for the Red, White, and Bloom quilt guide, it says stars 1, but it doesn't say horizontal or vertical. So we know that the fabric, if you look at the design, the fabric is going 4x2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose this vertical one, because this one would be more for going this way, whereas this would be more for going 4x2. So I'm going to click on the vertical one. All right, 4x2 stars 1 in vertical. I'm just writing a little note. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring that over here for now. Let's see, doesn't matter. We'll move them around as needed. All right, and then the next one is a 2x4 in chain link 1. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file. Oh, I forgot. We can go ahead and change those thread colors now. We have to remember to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue doing it as we go. So 3, 1, click on the color, and we want dark aqua. And 3, 2, click on the color, and I'm using Blaze. And 3, 3, click on the color, and I'm using Marine. Whatever the colors you used before is what you want. And then for 3, 4, I'm using Oriole. And then 3, 5, I'm going to use the third color down, which for me is Mint. And remember, my colors come up because I'm using Filtech Glide as my preferred thread. Whatever color that you're using, whatever thread preference you have, just use the third one down. Or you can sit there and choose colors if you prefer. It just takes more time. Whatever works for you. All right, and then we have our next one, go to merge stitch file, and we're looking for chain link 1. So I'm going to close up this stars 1, and there's chain link 1, embroidery files, Pez, and then we want a 2x4 right there, 2x4 chain link 1. Double click on that, and it goes to the center, and not sure where I want to put this, right? Oops, not that. Notice that if you have to click on the stitching, but if you do it on this bottom part, see right here, they're overlapped. So just be careful when you grab it. All right, and I'm just gonna zoom out. So notice I'm over my hoop and I couldn't see it. So you want to make sure that you can always see those black squares. That tells you, so see right there? Those black squares will help keep you out of the area of the hoop, and hitting that compass button should help to be able to see the bottom of your hoop. All right, so our last one, before we do that, let's change these colors. So for 1, click on the color and dark aqua. For 2, click on the color and it's blaze. For 3, click on the color, I'm using marine. And for 4, click on the color, I'm using Oriole. And then for this default 17 turquoise in 4-5, I'm going to use the 4th color down. 1, 2, 3, 4 is Magic Mint for me. All right, I'm keeping those different so that those won't join when we do our color sort. All right, so then merge stitch file. For our last one, I'm going to close up the chain link 1, and this one we are using orange peel 1. All right, orange peel right there. Open embroidery files. Pez is what we use for my brother machine, and I'm on a 4x6. I'm looking for a 4x6. Right there, 4x6 orange peel 1. Double click on that and it goes to the center. Now this one, I am going to bring it down here and I'm going to rotate it so that I have more room. I'm going to go ahead and click this rotate button right here, and then I can move it to whatever works. So notice I'm on my 10x16 hoop, and these actually fit extremely well just in the order that we did them in. So that works just fine. This one will have probably an inch extra of fabric on each corner, but these we only have a 1/4 inch on each side extra, and that's only if you cut them larger. So this fits really well. I didn't find it to fit in a 9x14. You could probably, if you were more brave than me and didn't mind overlapping fabrics, but this works well for me. And like I said, you can do this one first and then do your filler blocks in one hooping separately. That will work fine. So just whatever works for you and your hoop size. Don't forget to change these colors in this 5th one. So I'm going to start with 5-1, click on the color, and I'm going to use dark aqua, and then 5-2, click on the color, I'm using blaze. 5-3, click on the color, I'm using marine. 5-4, click on the color, I'm using Oriole. And then 5-5, I'm going to click on the 5th color down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cloud is what I'm using. All right, so those are all done so that we can color sort them. Now remember, we need to bring in that flower jar. I think that's what it was called. And if we were to do it after we do a color sort, it will be difficult to get it lined up right with that quilting design. So I'm going to do what I did on a previous tutorial that I think makes it pretty simple. And jar of flowers, that's what it's called. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I think I'll just bring in that design, the jar of flowers, now and get it sized, and then I'll show you. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file, and I'm going to go to my red, white, and bloom. That's not the quilting. In the embroidery files, Pez, and then the red, white, and bloom quilt, and I think if I just click that, yep, that does it. All right, and then we're looking for the jar of flowers, and it's a 5x7 design. There it is, jar of flowers, 5x7. Double click on that, and it will go to the center of all of those blocks, and we want it centered with this first block with our quilting design. So actually, you don't even have to click on it. So I'll show you. If we go click on number 1, that's that quilting design, that first quilting design, and then click your control button and click on jar of flowers, then we have both just those selected. 1 and 6 designs are selected, and I'm going to go to utility, align and distribute, and I'm going to say center, center, apply, and notice it makes it so that it is centered within that quilting design. It also moved our quilting design though. So I'm going to close this, and while they're both still selected, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up to that corner, and they stay centered because they're both selected. And then I'm going to click outside of the workspace so that nothing is selected. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, New Page, and it opens a second tab. I'm going to go back to this first tab, and I'm going to click down from the bottom and drag all the way up so that I have all 6 designs, and I'm going to say Control C to copy, and I'm going to go to Untitled 2, and I'm going to say Control V like victory to paste. And then I have all 6 of those designs again, but I'm going to work off of Untitled 1 for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that jar of flowers that we brought in, because I have it on that Untitled 2, so don't worry. But the reason I'm doing that is so that we can do a color sort now without having to add in that jar of flowers and not have to worry about aligning it later. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my color sort. But before you do your color sort, check your blocks, make sure nothing's over the hoop, everything gives you enough space, everything's lined up in the way that you want it, and then we can do our color sort. All right, so utility color sort. Right now, let me see, we have 25 color steps. You can see them down here at the bottom. All right, so utility color sort. And don't forget, you want these same, tolerance 0 is the most important part. You want these same settings that I have. And then click New View, and it'll open a third tab for us, and it reduced it by 16 color changes. So we're going to just quickly run through and see if it did what we think it did. So see, here's our Untitled 1 that has our 5 designs of just the quilting, and then Untitled 2 has that added jar of flowers that's nicely centered where we want it. And then Untitled 3 is where we have them all as just one design, just the quilting, but all 5 of them are just one design. So if we click on this, we can quickly look through and make sure that it did what we want it to do. So there's the placement for our batting all together, and our tack down of our batting, our placement of our main fabric, our tack down of our main fabric, and then the first quilting, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So those all worked out exactly as I was hoping. That worked out perfectly. So the only other thing we want to do while we have this as just one quilting design, we're in Untitled 3, we're going to click on Untitled 2, that tab there, and we're going to click just on the jar of flowers, and we're going to copy it and bring it over to that third tab, which should keep it in the right position. That's why we did it this way. So let's try. So we're on 6, the 6th design. Hit Control C to copy it, and then open up Untitled 3 and say Control V like victory to paste it. And you can see it brought it in, and if I click elsewhere, you can see it's perfectly centered between that plaid design. And it's after all of the other quilting designs. We have all of these quilting designs together, and then we have the jar of flowers to finish off. And we don't have to do another color sort because we don't want to worry about what other duplicates there may be in that, because it's just that one design we'll be working on. So this is perfect. Like I said, this is all of the filler blocks for section 6 and the jar of flowers. If you don't have this large of a hoop, you can do the jar of flowers separately and then do the other quilting designs for the filler blocks together. I've shown you how, so you should be all set. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file, save stitch file as, and I am going to make sure I'm in... Nope, I'm in Oh So Delightful because that's what I was working on just a moment ago. So now I'm going to go to my Red, White, and Bloom folder, and I'm going to go to the embroidery files and the Red, White, and Bloom quilt, and I'm going to name this Jar of Flowers, if I can type right, fillers. I think I'll say fillers 6. All right, Jar of Flowers, fillers 6. You don't want it too long. But whatever will help you to remember what you're working on. All right, and then save. And then I did turn my machine on, so I am going to go to Utility, my mistake, Utility, Send to Solaris XP1. I have the Luminaire XP1 that I work off, and it's sent to my machine. If you don't have that option, you would simply put a USB stick into your computer and copy the file to your USB stick and bring it over to your embroidery machine. So pretty easy day. Let's go ahead and get started on started and finish section 6. Hey everyone, so I just thought of something. Someone was asking the other day about how to delete steps under something using Embrilliance Essentials. So I want to warn you, it is 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my pajamas. I just did my run for the day. So excuse this, but I'm going to show you something, and I'm also going to time it and see how long it takes. So I was thinking today we are working on that flower jar block. Excuse that just popped up, sorry. So that flower jar block that we did right here, and we could take out the stitching underneath this, the quilting that is within the jar. So some people like to do that. We actually did it for, I think it was called the Jar of Hearts for the Love Notes quilt. That was the first time that we tried it, and we weren't using Embrilliance. So one thing with Embrilliance is it doesn't have an eraser tool. So What Pro has an eraser tool, and I do miss the eraser. In another program with Embrilliance, I think it's called Enthusiast. I don't have that, but in that program, they have a lasso tool that you can use. But they have something that works within Embrilliance Essentials, and we've done it before on a tutorial. I think it was, I don't remember, but anyway, we've done it before and it's been a while. So let's try it again. Why not, right? So if you want the quilting underneath the jar, then you don't need to do this. If you want it taken out, or if you just want to try something new, I'm going to show you how. It's definitely not necessary in any way, shape, or form, but just something new to try. So we need to start, the easiest way, I think, to start would be to have the jar on the top. All right, so I'm going to create an additional jar, just the jar. I'll show you what I mean. So let me just show you why. If I go to this quilting design and say that I'm going to start making changes, I can't see the jar very well. All right, and when I'm working just on that quilting design, I don't think I'll be able to see the jar at all, actually, because it will be behind. So I'm going to just create the jar and put it on the top. So let me just show you. That's extremely easy to do. So the jar is in our second design here. It is, let's see this one. Yep, right there. So 2-6. If you hit Control C to copy that one part of the design, and then I'm going to just close it and click out elsewhere, and I believe it'll just go to the end. Let's try. Control V to paste it, like victory. V like victory to paste it. Okay, and see, it went to the end of all of it. I want it at the beginning so that it will be on top so that we can see it, and we'll delete it before we start stitching. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say move first, and see, it goes right up to the top. All right, so now when we click on the quilting right there, I think we'll be able to see it better. Let's just give it a try. So the tool that Embrilliance Essentials has to be able to erase part of the design, and it's not an eraser tool, but it is this stitch simulator right here. If we click on the stitch simulator, and then we will scroll, so we know it is this sprout color, so we know that it's this one. So we can go ahead and fast forward to that design. So that part, see right there, this is the only part we want to work on. Okay, just this part. So I'm going to click on just this sprout. It's 2-5. That's our design there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this compass, and I'm going to move this plus sign just to the jar. And then I'm going to use my mouse scroll to zoom in. And I want to zoom in a lot. So I'm going to move this around so that I can see the jar. Now, I am not going to do this perfectly. I don't care about the lines up here in the lid. I just care about this jar. That's the only part I'm going to work on. So decide right now what part, like if you want it all the way out of the jar, then you can absolutely do that. I'm just going to do this jar part. All right, so let's see how we do this. So if I click, I have that stitch simulator, and I'm going to see, now I can see the jar. That's what I was saying is I can see the jar well because it is the first thing. And then I'm going to start moving the stitch simulator, and you can see it's bringing in that plaid quilting design over the top of it, and it moves faster because I've got it so zoomed in. So if you don't want it that zoomed in, you don't need to. It's up to you. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this stitch simulator, and all I'm doing is I'm clicking on this little button here, this stitch simulator, and moving it around. All right, and then I'm going to get it when it starts to get to the inside of the jar, which is right there. So see, and I'm going to back it up, and once I get close, it's hard to get it exactly right at it because it's moving so quickly because we're so zoomed in. But then you would go over here to these arrows right here, and you can go stitch by stitch. All right, and you can see that's a little bit too far. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to get it just before the start of the jar. And then what I want to do is I want to stop it. See this stop button? And it will give me an option to change the thread color. So I can go up or down. I think I'll go down. So I think I'll go to Azure because I remember that we used Magic Mint and Cloud. Here they are as our quilting design. So I'm going to go to Azure. I don't believe that Azure is in this design anywhere. And you just want a thread color that's not already in your design, but we've already done a color sort and all that, so actually it really doesn't matter. Pick a color, and we're going to use the same color. You'll see how we go. So I'm clicking Azure. It's close to my sprout. It doesn't matter. It's just something different, and I'm going to say okay. Now watch what will happen. It will change the rest of the colors. Okay, I'm sorry, the rest of that sprout color, and that's fine. So you can see now we have just a little bit of this sprout right here is our thread color, and then the rest is this Azure. So we'll just again bring this slider over until we get to that Azure right there, and then once it goes outside of the jar, I'm going to do it there, and then just advance to the when it gets to the outside of the jar, and it can be whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to just stop it there, and I'm going to hit stop, and again it will ask me to change the color. So I'm going to go back to sprout. Okay, that's the important part, is you want all of the part that you want to keep one color and all of the part you want to delete one color. All right, so we already had sprout, so I'm just going to keep going back to sprout, and it's right above, right a few above, I guess. There, nope, above sea green. So right there. You could do one that's just close to it, but you want to be able to notice the difference. All right, so I'm clicking on sprout and saying okay, and then again it changes everything to that sprout. All of the ones after that Azure, it changes back to sprout. Now you could use like a red or something that's going to stand out a lot for you so that it doesn't get confusing, but it shouldn't be a problem at all because you're just going to move this button over here. I'm going to move it back now, so we've got all of this Azure, or I'm sorry, all of the sprout. So we have sprout, and then see here is that tiny bit of Azure, and then it goes back to the sprout. And see, as soon as it gets into that jar, I'm going to use the stitch back button to go stitch by stitch, and then I'm going to just stop it. And again, I'll go back to that Azure, all right there, Azure, for the color that will be within the jar. You're just thinking of in the jar and out the jar. That's the easiest way to think about it. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and move this again until I get back to Azure, because now it's all Azure. See all of this blue part up here? All right, and so all I'm doing is I want to stop it when it gets to before the end of that jar, and then I'm going to advance. So all of the parts within the jar I want Azure, and all of the parts outside of the jar I want to be sprout. So I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to find that sprout again right there and say okay, and then everything goes back to the sprout except for the parts that are within the jar. And then we just keep moving this over until we get to that part again that is inside of the jar. The next one, see there's the next one. So I'm just going to back it up. and hit stop. And I'm going to change it to Azure because we're going to have the part go inside of the jar, and it does all of the rest, which is fine because we're just going to keep going through here until it gets outside of the jar. So it goes very fast. All right. Let's see. I think I can go one more. Yep. And then stop. And then it will go to sprout. Oops, up. All right, and then back to it again. We're just looking for the parts that are in the jar. So now see, it's down at the bottom. I might be zoomed in too much. I can't see where it's going after that. So I can just back it up. I think I'll go down one. Let's see, where are we? Oh, there we are. It looks like you can't just hold it. It'd be nice if you could just hold it and it would go, but that's okay. All right, and I am going to zoom in one more because I like to be able to see it. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Think about where those stitches, tiny little stitches, you're not going to see the little stop points really. All right, and I'm going to hit stop so I can change it to that Azure again. All right, and then back through. Too far. Oops. All right, and then back it up. Wait, what did I do? Let's zoom out. Oh yeah. Okay, I was close. I just didn't see it. At the bottom of the jar, it's a little bit harder to see. So I'm going to forward to there and hit stop. Maybe I'll do one more. Nope, too far. All right, and then stop and change it back to that sprout, which is up. All right, and then move it again until you see the next piece that goes in the jar. I think I have to zoom out to be able to see it better. All right, so it's right. Stop, change it to Azure, and then back out through it. And I think I'm going to zoom out on this part because we only want the inside of the jar part. It goes so fast, it's funny. Okay. There we go. Stop, change it to sprout. It's pretty easy when you think about the fact that the parts inside of the jar are one color and the parts outside of the jar are another color. So really we've already got all of the this way lines, and now we're going to do the ones going this way. So it was a pretty quick process. It seems very cumbersome, but it actually goes pretty quickly. So I'm just going to move it back over. And keep in mind, you won't be talking the whole time you're doing it, so it'll go even faster. All right. It would be nice if you could just hold down that button, but you can't. You have to click on it over and over. All right, and I'm going to zoom in for this part. There we go. Stop. Change it to, all right, stop and change it to Azure when you're inside of the jar, and then move it back over again. So this one is just the very edge of this part of the jar, but it still works. All right, so that really didn't take very long. You have to think about it, like I said, inner jar, outer jar, but you can see that they're done. I did not, like I said, I didn't do the jar part or the cap part. I just did the jar, but you can see that inside of the jar, they're all light blue or azure, and all of the quilting outside of the jar is sprout. So that was pretty easy, and you can see now that we have all these sprout and azures, what we can do is very easily click on, I'm going to zoom out, sorry, let's see if I go to hoop. All right, and then if I click, I want to keep all of the sprouts, but all of these azures, these little lines, I can just click delete on my keyboard. Delete all of the azures. There's another one. There's no more azures. Now see, now our jar is empty. How cool is that, right? It wasn't that difficult. It takes a little brain power and a tiny little bit of time, but it really wasn't too bad at all. So if you want an empty jar, that's how to do it very simply. Make sure to save it. You could do a color sort, but there are, let's see, the sprouts are the same. We have blaze, marine. Oh wait, those are part of our... Oh, don't forget, by the way, I almost forgot to say, you want to delete this jar of flowers, this very first jar of flowers. Click delete on that very first one because it's already part of this design here. All right, so on here, oh, it's part of the quilting. I'm sorry, my mistake. I was thinking that it's part of the jar, but it's not. So it shouldn't stop. All of these sprouts, it won't stop. They're all the same color. They're in the same order. It will be all the same. You could do another color sort. My concern with doing another color sort would be that we brought in, see all these default blues and oranges, those would join. So you could do this before you bring in the real jar of flowers. In fact, do we still have that? You could do it that way. You could do all of the quilting first and bring in that jar, just the jar like I showed you, and then do your color sort and then bring in the actual jar. That would work totally fine, but this works fine as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine. And like I said, I don't think my machine will stop for all of these sprouts because they're all the same. I'm pretty certain that it will just continue. So now I have an empty jar. If that's something that you're interested in doing, it's a quick little tutorial to show you how to. All right, time to go to bed. So how are you doing with your goal? So I went for a bike ride with our club on Sunday, and then I also had to finish my treadmill challenge because they're doing this special thing with iFit that you have to do these 2 specific workouts to be able to earn this badge, and it's 2 per week. And I did one of them earlier in the week, but I didn't get a chance to do the second one, and so I had to do that late last night after I finished the bike ride. So it was a big day, but I got it done, and so I felt good about that. It was a good 2-mile run at a pretty good pace. Enjoyed that. So what are you doing for your goal? Mine is to try and build strength, and I'm working hard on that in between doing these 2 quilts and all of these tutorials. And so I want to hear how you're doing with your goal. Let me know. And my shirt today is an older one. It is a really cute Hey Y'all cowboy shirt. This is a sketch design, and it's really cool. It's artistic. I think the way that the sketch design comes out past the line. Does that make sense? I think it's a really cute design. So this one, I got it from Jazzy Zebra, I'm pretty sure. I believe it was Jazzy Zebra that I bought this design. And I'm not sure if they're still around. I think they still have an Etsy shop. They may not have their website anymore, which is actually where I bought most of my designs. But I will add information if I still have it available. But it's a really cute, fun design. And this would be a fun one. These are the type of designs that you want to put Mylar under on some of them, like mermaids or princesses or something like that. I think that's really fun to, under a sketch design, to have Mylar, and it's just a fun design. So anyway, I'll share the information under this video.